Hey everybody, John Burke with Burke & Co. along with Foster Real Estate Group. I have the nerdy headphones on, so we're going to talk about a nerdy topic, and of course it's going to involve a number. But the great news is it's only one number, but the amazing number is 5. Because last week we talked about 4. Over the course of 30 days in Seattle, which should be the busiest time of the year, we'd only put 4 houses under contract. Well, last week we put 5 houses under contract, and I have a hypothesis as to why. So our friend Fred, Federal Reserve Economic Data, can help us out here. Here's a chart from the Federal Reserve that shows the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate in America. And you can see, if you look at this date here, it's a little hard to see, but starting in around the 9th of May, rates began to move down. And then all of a sudden, in the course of the last week, we saw a flurry of activity. Now, it's important to see that in reality, rates were actually lower if you go back in time to about a month before, when things went into extreme slowdown, but they were moving up. And we found throughout this spring and into the, now reaching into summer, that every time the rates tick down, so it's just relative, there are people out there who are kind of shopping, and then the rates move down a little bit and people jump on top of it. We see a flurry of activity. And that's what occurred over the course of the last week. So when we get into the future and we get maybe significant rate cuts, there's a theory out there that we're going to see a huge jump in activity. And that's why it might be a good time now to get active in front of that. Important to note when you're looking at this too, that this whole fluctuation, this all changes in a very, very small area. The far left, it's hard to see on this chart, but mortgages on the far left there, where that red dot is 6.8%. And over here on the far right, it's gotten back down to 7. At one point, it peaked at around 7.2%. So we're not talking about much variation, but it's whether it's going up or down, which seems to drive activity. So as I mentioned, there's a theory out there that when we get the big cuts, maybe as early September, maybe after the election, but whenever they come, that a lot of people have been waiting are going to get active, which is why you've heard the advice before, and we'll mention here again, there is a school of thought that says, find the house now, refi later, before the competition starts. So if you have plans to buy, or if you're thinking about selling, we always want to talk to you. John Burke for all of us here at Burke & Company, and we'll see you next week.